Yeah. So Tim, if we go back, what was it, 12 years ago, after you finished The Nightmare Before Christmas, you looked at it, what were your feelings about that, and what kind of things did you want to continue to do in puppet animation?
Well, I mean, I just love the medium so much, and from that, I was sort of interested in exploring more, trying to make something more emotional and kind of like a love story, because there's something so sort of beautiful about the technique, and so you know, the handmade quality of it, and so sort of looking for, you know, another type of project to do in the medium, and a good friend of ours, Joe Ramft, who worked on Nightmare, is no longer with us, had told me the idea that he had some old folk tale called The Corpse Bride, and that just sort of made me start thinking about, you know, just trying to make kind of like some kind of love story with skeletons.
What things technically were available to you now that weren't available to you in '93?
Well, I mean, the technique is, the amazing thing is it's the same technique, so that's like since the beginning of cinema, it's not much has really changed. I think the difference on this was the sort of sophistication of the puppets. On Nightmare, we used a lot of replacement heads for expressions. And on this, a lot of the mechanics were just built into the head. I mean, they were really beautiful works of art, these puppets. I mean, they're really...
How big are they?
Well, they're about a foot tall. You know, the animators would have to put a wrench in the ear to make the mouths move and a wrench in the other ear to make... I mean, really amazing construction on these puppets. And also, too, with the fabric, you know, just trying to find... Because, like, hair and fabric are really hard to kind of animate in this process, so trying to find the right kind of metallic fabric that would hold and still flow, and it was, you know, but everything else, you know, kind of remains the same, really.
So, what was the first step in the process? Did you have a story written out first? Did you come up with sketches, or?
Sketches, and, you know, it was like, again, 10 years sort of before. A lot of it has to do with the team, you know, it's like, there was a group of puppet makers in Manchester, England, that I'd worked with, and they made these puppets beautiful. And also just getting the right team together. You know, it's still a somewhat rarefied field, and so I was lucky to kind of, you know, find a great co-director, Mike Johnson, and then we got together a nice, great team of people to kind of, you know, work in the dark for a couple of years for 12 hours a day, you know. So a lot of it has to do with just finding the right team of people.
Was it all shot in one location, one studio?
Yeah, in East London, yeah.
And but the musical sequences, when did that occur to you to include that?
Well, I mean, the form of animation is such a musical, even the way the animators animate, it's like choreography, and so somehow it always sort of lends itself to music, and you know, Danny's always been an integral part to the sort of character of the piece, and you know, when you add music to it, you know, he comes on very early so that the animators can, obviously with the piano and the songs, all have to be done first so that they can animate to it.
And was there a certain kind of music you were looking for? Any models of musical movies you were thinking of?
Oh, Gone with the Wind for a moment. No, you know, just Danny, you know, it just, you know, I used to go see his music in, you know, in Oingo Boingo in clubs before I was ever making movies, so, you know, he kind of, you know, he's always enjoyed doing skeleton music, so that's the best way you can describe it, really.
How much more of a role did computers play in this one than, say, in Nightmare?
Not much. We've really tried to keep it to a minimum. I mean, there's just really just a couple of effects, some smoke effects, and just some compositing, and because again, you know, the point of it was to keep the purest form possible that we could. So we really didn't do much at all.
Is there much other puppet animation around that you admire, or people who work in this medium whose work you can recommend?
Well, unfortunately, there's not many. You know, I mean, it's just because you know, it's like I've heard that Disney's closed down its cell animation program. You know, there's sort of computers, sort of, which is nothing wrong with computers, but I think you know, the studios have kind of relied too heavily on it, just for the fact they don't, you know, it's basically because Pixar makes good movies. It's not about computers or things. It's, you know, it's more about, so you hope that they're more, you know, open in the future to just all forms of animation.
When you were talking before about doing a story with a lot more emotion, were you worried? I mean, I find the ending incredibly moving. Were you worried that puppets could actually bear that?
Yeah, well, that was a great challenge. I mean, that was one of the things that we wanted to do, is see if we could make, you know, puppets, you know, emotional. And a lot had to do with the cast. I mean, we had a beautiful cast of actors, you know, that just kind of, you know, it was a fairly low budget movie, so everybody just kind of came in and did it. And you know, I think, you know, everybody would say, you know, voices are important in an animated film, which they are. But in this case, I felt like they really kind of came through and really added an emotional context to the characters that you know, that helped that emotional quality that we were going for.
See if we get some questions from our guests here. Yes.
Right before he passed away, I understand you were doing a documentary on Vincent Price. Whatever happened with the footage that you had shot, and how close were you to being done?
Let me just repeat it. The viewer said that before he passed away, it would seem that Tim Burton was making a film about Vincent Price before he passed away, and what happened to that footage?
Well, I still have it. I initially had trouble getting rights to some of the film footage and stuff, and so it kind of went on the shelf. And also, I was kind of in it, and I kind of hate looking at myself. So if I could find a way of cutting myself out of it and showing, you know, him, you know, I'd like to kind of go back and maybe revisit that, you know.
Yes.
Was the scene with the skeleton dance, was that in any way influenced by the Walt Disney short Skeleton Dance in the 1930s?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of sort of Disney references. You know, there's that. There's instead of what in Cinderella, when the birds are helping her, we use spiders instead of dressing her, and instead of Jiminy Cricket, we had a maggot as a so, you know, and there were lots of Disney references.
I think people remember Peter Lorre.
Well, you know, that's the thing. I never knew what Peter Lorre was, but that was sort of my inspiration for that was those old Warner Brothers cartoons and a weird, like, you know, Peter Lorre fish would show up and go, what the hell was that? And so that sort of got me, you know, I learned about Peter Lorre through those old Warner Brothers cartoons.
Yes.
I like the concept that in real life was these drab blues and grays, and the afterlife obviously was in kind of more dramatic color. When looking at the poster, I noticed you kind of flip-flop that. I'm wondering if you can speak to the decision as to why you did that.
Yeah, well, it was sort of the idea of, you know, making, you know, a lot of that has to, from growing up in Burbank, that kind of feeling of sort of drab, rigid, kind of, you know, kind of oppressive feeling of society, versus the Land of the Dead feeling more as a sort of symbol of the sort of creative spirit and color and vibrant, and also too, growing up in that culture where death was always sort of a taboo subject and very dark and not to be spoken of. And you know, there's a large Hispanic culture in Los Angeles which, you know, celebrates the Day of the Dead in a much more humorous, you know, skeletons in pool halls and things. And there's something that's much more, I feel is more beautiful and hopeful about that sort of. And other cultures have that, and you know, that kind of dark cloud culture that I grew up in, it just sort of creates this sort of climate of fear where you're just kind of worried about everything, as opposed to sort of the celebration, which just seems so much more positive way of looking at things.
Yes.
What was your big break in the industry that got you there to do whatever you really wanted? And on that note, I just see so many cool young people here. I saw some girls over here drawing, and it was really, really good stuff. And like, I do some stuff. I'm wondering what would bridge the gap from being in the audience to like breaking this barrier and going to you and maybe showing stuff, or like if you have a card to go, like break.
Let you all come up here and I'll just go sit in the audience. That would be fine with me. I'd be more than happy to trade. Well, you know, that's just what you're just saying. I was just lucky to do what you're doing, which is draw and just keep doing your own thing. you know, a little bit of its luck. I still can't figure out how it happened, you know, because I was a terrible student and a terrible busboy and a terrible leader and a terrible, you know, pretty much everything. So, you know, it's nice to kind of just keep to your passion and just do, you know, just do whatever form, drawing, music, film, whatever, just keep your own passions going that way.
Do you sense that there's a greater opportunity now, though, for animation and perhaps other styles of filmmaking in the industry or just around?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because now you can do movies on your own phone, I hear. So, yeah. So, yes, those possibilities are there.
Let's see, some of these. Yes?
How was your experience of making this film so close back to back with Charlotte?
Well, it wasn't back to back, it was sort of at the same time. Like I said, I'm lucky to have a very great co-director, Mike Johnson, who was, you know, in the dark most of the time for a couple of years, and it was a bit schizophrenic, but in some ways it was convenient, because it was both were done in London, and like, you know, like with Johnny, you know, he'd be like Willy Wonka during the day and Victor at night, you know? And so, you know, the same with Helena and Christopher Lee, you know, so there was a lot of crossover that was actually sort of beneficial in a certain way. So, and also, you know, it's such a slow motion process. I mean, you know, you probably know the process. I mean, an animator might get 6 seconds, you know, or at least sometimes get several seconds a week, or at most a couple of minutes a week of footage. So, you know, it's a different process.
Is there any material that will eventually be on the DVD that's not here?
Well, you don't do like take 3 and 4 with this kind of, you know,
Sequences.
No, I mean there is something that's quite nice that I hope gets put on, which is to see the actors. I mean, it's not we didn't do the kind of slick DreamWorks kind of where everybody's in makeup, kind of, you know, showing them doing their voices. It looks more like sort of convenience store, you know, footage. Everybody looking like crap, you know, but doing the voices, and it's actually quite exciting. And there's some early tests where you see some of the armatures moving and things, which for me, it's the first time. You know, usually on DVDs there's a lot of crap, and this is probably the first one I can see that I would find interesting. You know, there's a lot of seeing the mechanics of the puppets and all.
I'm wondering about your conception for Victor's parents. I mean, in a certain way, that seemed almost a very classic cartoon for me in terms of the way that they looked and their relations and stuff.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. You know, it was like Nightmare. Like for stop motion, like fantasy characters are much easier to kind of design because they're fantasy characters. I always find that human characters are more tricky because they're either kind of too realistic or whatever. So it kind of started out with sort of thinking with the Victor character, you know, I sort of went back to the first short film I did, which was Vincent, and sort of thought of Vincent grown up, kind of, and that sort of helped set the tone of how to maybe try to design, you know, some of the human characters. And actually somebody pointed out, which I didn't think about till, you know, said, Victoria's father looks like the Burgermeister Burger from it. So there's a little bit of Rankin and Bass in there too, I guess. You know.
Let's see. Yes, ma'am.
Going back to what this young man was saying, these are my girls here doing
Hello. Shouldn't you be home doing your homework?
They should, but it was too big for them. It's just that idea that, you know, now we're thinking college things, and they're so involved in their artwork, and it's almost a shame to put them into that college thing, not knowing what it's going to lead to for them. Will it stifle them, or will it enhance them? So it's like a...
Yeah, well, I remember feeling that very much, you know, because I always remember, like, you know, you look at children's drawings and all children draw amazingly, and then you just sort of gets beaten out of you as you get older. And I remember going through that in school, like, oh no, you can't draw like this, you have to draw like that, and I got really frustrated, almost thinking like I couldn't draw. And I remember, you know, sitting in the farmer's market in LA one day and just being frustrated, and I almost had a hallucination where I just said, I don't care, I'm just going to draw the way I want to draw. And it was like a moment that changed my life in a certain way, and it was, so it is something, you know, there's lots of things to be learned, but there's also the thing of being, again, true to yourself, and it's a tough balance, but it's something to remember.
Yes?
Do you not like casting? You're like a real collaborator. You tend to have more than a lot of directors. You tend to latch on people and work with them again and again. Like, what is it about certain actors or Danny Elfman or whatever? What do you find in people that you just want to stick with?
Well, I mean, a lot of it has to do with sharing a certain sensibility. I mean, you know, in every film, you never always work with the same people because you know, there's always a bit of new, you know, fresh meat or whatever, blood or whatever you want to call it. But so it's, but you know, it's not, you know, like people like Johnny. It's always fun because he's always like, you know, he's more like. You know, Lon Chaney or Boris Karloff than he is a leading man. You know, he likes to transform, and so that's fun to deal with. You know, there's something that's very creative about that process and trying to do new things with the same people that you work with. Also, sort of shorthand that helps because, you know, I do have trouble making complete sentences sometimes. You know, just wave your arms and they understand you. So that's so. And again, on this particular case, you know, it's just I work with people that have great voices, and as I said, you know, I worked with, you know, Johnny and Helena and Christopher Lee and Michael Goff, and but all of them, you know, Emily, you know, Richard Grant, Emily Watson, Joanna Love, every voice I feel in the movie is just is amazing, you know. So they, again, I was very lucky, and we try to keep it. You know, I think a lot of people who do animated films complain because they do take 20 and 30 and 40, and because sometimes animators, I was there myself, you get kind of very anal about things and you kind of have to. So we try to keep it kind of more spontaneous and you know, so to give the performance a little bit more life.
Did you ever do, during the course of the filming, any work with live actors to give you a sense of movement? Or?
No, I mean, these guys, all we did was show them their puppets. You know, that's all they had. So that, I think, has helped inform them of the character. But what was odd is that we designed these characters years before, you know, we cast anybody, and it was sort of weird that, you know, that Johnny ended up, you know, looking like the Victor puppet, and you know. And you know, Albert Finney and his character, his voice just matched so perfect. You know, it's like it was a weird kind of karma that all the characters ended up kind of looking like who they were.
Let's see. So, yes, ma'am. Yes, right.
Are you thinking about, or do you have plans to write and or draw another book anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always doing it, so it just is, you know, I write it on scraps of toilet paper and, you know, matchbook covers, and when there's enough material, if there is enough, you know, yeah, so I'm always kind of doing little stories, and, you know, if it ever amounts to anything, I might do that, because I did enjoy it, yeah.
Would Corpse Bride ever be released as a book?
No, I think what we're going to do is just kind of, because the process of making it such a beautiful process, there's so many great artists that work on it. I mean, really, you know, the animators, the sculptors, the puppet makers, everybody is, that's the beauty of it, you know, you're in the movie industry, but then at the same time, this kind of brings you back to realizing you're still working with an art form. So, you know, we might just do a book showing the kind of process of it, which I think I find interesting, and, you know, sort of shows the artists at work.
Yes, back there. Yes, ma'am. Right.
There's an extraordinary level of facial expression in this film that I've never seen in a soft action film. Is there any puppets? You know?
No, what I was saying is that really it's the artistry of the way these puppets were built, and like I said, if you opened up, you know, took off their faces and saw what was underneath there, I mean, it's like a, you know, it's like a human, it's like an android, it's like a robot. I mean, they really, and again, it's something that we were going for, and I think it is some of my favorite moments are just when close-ups and the characters are looking at each other, and just the slightest eye movement, which just makes it so real and beautiful. And like I said, if you saw these puppets and touched them, they're just so beautiful and tactile. I almost wish I had one here. Carry it with me always.
Yes, Ray.
On Nightmare Before Christmas, Henry Selick got the sole director credit. But on this one, you share the credit with Mike Johnson. How is this one more of a collaborative effort than Nightmare?
Well, the easiest way for me to sort of explain that is that Nightmare, for me, was a much more completed, completely fully designed. It was something that was so clear in my mind, and it was so sort of fleshed out in a way that there was. I didn't feel like there was many variants for, it just was very clear. And in this case, it was a much more organic process. It was much more, we were kind of working on things all the way through and adding shots and writing things all the way through. And so since it wasn't sort of based on something that I had sort of originated like Nightmare, it was just a feeling of wanting to feel a bit more sort of involved, because it was a much more sort of organic process, this particular project.
Yes.
Is the actual directing process easier or harder when you do something as far as stop motion as opposed to real film? Like, as far as lighting goes, where you want a character to be, how you want them to move, and whatnot?
Well, obviously, just live action is more immediate, so the decisions have to be a lot quicker. It's more spontaneous. Obviously, puppets just don't jump up and, it would take 6 seconds, for a guy to scratch his ear, take a week to do, so it's a slightly different process. And also, obviously with animation, you storyboard it, so, between Mike and I, you look at the storyboards, and so it's much more sort of planned out in a way, so it's just, that's really the difference. And the other things, you don't do take 2 and 3. You hope to get shots. Maybe we shot a couple of shots, but it's. But besides that, it's like you build sets and it's lit, and I think that's what gives it the sort of simple power that it has. So in that way, it's like a live action film, but just in real slow time.
Was it all originated on film, on 35?
Yeah, we used digital cameras, which helped with, that was the other thing that helped with the animators. They could track their shots a little bit easier. That, they could see where they were going with it a bit more, as in the old days where you just do it and, take it to the lab and see, oh shit, what happened yesterday, what happened. But it was easier to track, so that was a slight advancement.
Let's see. Yes, over here.
I realized that Willy can't say parents and Victor can't say married. I was wondering if there's a word you back away from these days.
Well, both of those are pretty good ones. That's why they're there, yeah.
Yes?
So you've done this great emotionally resonant story and touching numbers, and it's incredible. What if someone came up to you and said, hey, how about Parks Friday musical?
I think that's a problem right now, is that there's too many, it's like, when Harry met Sally the musical, the Seattle musical, Stealth the musical. That's the problem, I think, that,
Yes.
I was wondering how come you usually choose to do stop animation instead of usually just drawing animation? Like, why do you choose puppets versus just drawings? Like, how come we haven't seen a Oyster Boy movie?
Well, a lot of it really, stems from growing up in the love of, Ray Harryhausen movies, or you know, every Christmas watching the Rankin and Bass, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. There's something again that's very primal about that form of animation, and I just always, and that's why I did Vincent that way. And there's just something about that I find, again, just an amazing process. I mean, I think all forms are valid and they can all be beautiful, but this one for me just has I just have a particular love for it.
I noticed that Victor plays Harryhausen pianos.
Yeah, well, it was like a few months ago, or we were into the production, and Johnny and Hal and I went over to Ray's house in London and met him for the first time, and he's such an amazing man, and still, the amazing thing is that he's still not doing it, because he's still, you know, vital and interested and amazing. And then, you know, he went out to the set and visited the animators on Corpse Bride, and like, you know, I think the production ground to a halt that day. We've been in the dark for like 2 years, and then all of a sudden, this Ray Harryhausen comes. It's like it was. I don't think much work got done that day.
Yes, sir.
Do you think we'll ever get to adapt a Club into a film?
Oh, I don't know. You know, it's a great book, and yeah, I'm not sure. You know, I don't know.
Time for a couple more. Yes, gentleman who's behind you. You had your hand up. Yeah.
All right. First of all, before I start, I want to say I'm a huge fan of everything you've done. Congratulations on this album. I'm an animation maker, but my interests go in both film and animation. I was wondering, since you start off as an animation maker, what kind of advice would you have for someone in the same position?
Well, I mean, I always felt grateful for my, you know, an animation background, because it's basically film. I mean, you know, the great thing about why I felt lucky with it is that you know, you'd have to draw the characters, draw the sets, do the storyboards, you know, shoot it. So you almost got the complete kind of filmmaking experience, and also composition. You know, it teaches you. So I thought, you know, for me, it was a much better sort of complete film background than if I had just gone to like normal film school. And you know, so I think you're right to sort of separate it, because it's all kind of the same thing in a way.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry?
Question about the David Copperfield Dickensian environment.
I thought you meant David Copperfield the magician. I remember that reference. Well, I mean, it's just, again, that sort of represented that sort of rigid, you know, bureaucratic, repressed society, which we wanted to play against with the, you know, Land of the Dead.
Yes.
Yes. Hi. How much do you collaborate with Danny Elfman? Do you just leave the music up to him, or do you just go say, write me a pretty love song, and then he goes? Or do you write something at all? Do you have any basic?
No, I don't write. I'm not a musician. So I mean, we work together enough. So he, you know, like I said, he comes in very early on a project like this, and he gets it. You know, I mean, like I said, that's why I love working with him. And like I said, he was doing, you know, skeleton music back in clubs in the, you know, late 70s. So.
Well, I'm afraid that's all we have time for. Tim, thank you so much for coming.
World exclusive, davidjr.com, adamoniano.com, Tim Burton, I guess it's stainboy.com, that's his official site or something.
And you'll come up with something.
Yeah, just Google him. So he was really cool.
Really nice guy.
Me and
really
a friend of mine asked the two best questions of the night.
Yeah. He asked about the creative process of collaborating with Mr. Danny Elfman on the music. And yeah, we got some very honest, candid answers about that, how that works.
And now, one of the other people we went with went to the ladies' room and came back and said, guess who I ran into who's outside? So she ran into Tim Burton. And I was like, holy shit. So I had to use the bathroom. So I went, met him, said, boy, this movie's incredible, it's unbelievable. I hope you're going to like the question I'm going to ask you later. I mean, maybe I had a chance to give him the card to check out my work then, but I really didn't want. I wanted to do it in a legit fashion, legitimacy. And he was really cool, open to my questions, and yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect that from a big-time director to be so receptive to the people.
Not at all, yeah. And that guy, I know that guy.
From the Village Voice.
From the Village Voice. What's his name again?
Michael Musto.
Michael Musto from the Village Voice.
Oh, why do I know that? He's been on social media, like, he's trying to have, like...
And I think Tim Burton's going to be coming out. Adam, there's a VIP room. What's going on?
Yeah, no definitive word whether Mr. Burton is in there or not. I do know that there are special tickets you have to hand in, and then they give you a corresponding camera or some small thing. I don't know what that's all about. The woman I talked to said it has nothing to do with our deal, but if it's the VIP
bullshit.
deal, yeah, they're just trying to keep the layman's out of it. But you know, whatever. We had our moments. We had our brush with fame, so we got what we wanted.
He pointed at me.
He pointed at you.
He pointed at me.
The interview guy was like,
Tim Burton pointed at Nisa.
He didn't point at any other. This is the only questioner he handpicked.
And I didn't know what to say. And I already knew the answer. He was so stupid, but I don't care.
You said it so intelligently. An intelligent person could have had that question.
Oh, here come the security guards. They look upset. And they're going to love how this camera slipped by. You should have taken the camera when you had the chance. There might be a window in here to ascertain what's going on.
He's gone?
He said we need to talk to the keymaster.
No, he was basically giving us finger with the key.
What's your name, though?
What's your name?
Actually, what's yours?
Manish.
She's done? Yeah, he's gone. It took him out.
And they said he was going to come out this way.
He's going to a reception at a hotel somewhere.
Run, it's fun.
A reception.
We gotta follow those guys.
The bald guy said so.
Let's follow them.
This guy. Oh yeah.
We'll get in the cab and follow them.
Oh wait, I think that's him in the corner. He's just in the bathroom for a really long time. Man.
You know what? You don't wanna spoil it. You made a lovely impression.
We gotta follow the.
Like if you take it any farther and he opens his bathroom door and you're in there.
So they're meeting Tim Burton. We gotta ascertain. I got a feeling that way. Because his people that told us he's going to be at a reception tonight in some hotel?
This guy was just telling me you can find another way to find him, but he didn't give any other answer.
Well, his people went that way.
Yeah?
We gotta go over this way. Yeah, we're gonna check it out. We're gonna go this way.
Which story did he use anyways?
I think he went down that way because this bald guy who knows the deal.
Yeah.
He went that way. I'm gonna go around and check it out. You guys going or what?
We're going with you.
Okay, come on. Yeah. Dun 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 dun.
We're not even sure where we're.
Oh my God.
I haven't even had a beer yet, and I feel fucked up. Tim.
He's around here somewhere.
Tim. Oh wait, maybe over here.
Exact other side of the block now.
Did Tim Burton come this way? Tim Burton, the director? No. Okay. Should I have anyone in there for the... Excuse me, miss. You didn't see Tim Burton go this way, the director? Alright, thanks anyway.
Give me a decent picture of it.
Oh, I got some video.
Did?
Yeah.
Yeah, you made some pictures?
Oh yeah, you should go to my site.
Yeah.
Here, I'll write it down.
Yeah.
DavidJr.com.
My name is Bush.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Yeah. I should have the video up. Give me like a day or two.
Yeah.
I'll put it up.
Okay. That would be great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shit. Oh shit, it's water bottle. There's a clue. There's a clue.
It smells like puppets.
Puppets. I think it's just out there. The answer is out there. They don't know.
That truck looks like it's just loaded.
Oh, maybe it's low. Maybe it's Tim Burton. Shit.
Is this big enough to fit maybe a film director and his entourage?
Yeah. Oh, it's hollowed out. Oh, it was a trick. It was a decoy.
A decoy.
Tim Burton? Is Tim Burton in there? Oh. No, Tim Burton. No. Tim? Where are you, Tim? I want you to check out my website.